In the quiet hours of the night when distractions fade and silence rises, a question often emerges from deep within. Who am I? Really? Beneath the roles we play, the identities we wear, the masks we show to the world, what is left? This question, though ancient, remains urgent. And for Carl Jung, this question was not just a philosophical riddle. It was the central task of a human life: to become whole, to realize the self, to complete the journey of self-realization. Jung believed that every person carries within them a blueprint, a unique path to becoming the fullest version of themselves. He called this the process of individuation. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming who you truly are beneath the conditioning, the fear, and the forgotten parts of yourself. And the truth is, most people never even begin this journey. They live within the narrow confines of the persona, the social mask crafted to survive, to fit in, to succeed. But the persona is not the self. It is a thin layer stretched over a vast and hidden interior. The self, in Jung's view, is the totality of who you are. It includes the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow, the known and the unknown. It is your divine potential, your truest essence, and the path to it is not linear. It is not clean. It is not easy. It is often chaotic, painful, and confusing. Because before you can become whole, you must confront the parts of yourself you've exiled. You must retrieve the pieces you left behind in childhood, in trauma, in fear. You must go into the underworld of your own psyche and reclaim what was lost. This descent is not a failure. It is not a breakdown. It is the beginning of awakening. Jung was clear: there is no light without shadow, no ascent without descent, no realization without confrontation. And so the first step toward becoming whole is to recognize that wholeness requires the integration of everything. Not just the good, not just the socially acceptable, but the full spectrum of your being. For many, the journey begins with suffering, a crisis, a loss, an inner emptiness that refuses to be ignored. This suffering is not punishment. It is a summons. It is the soul's way of demanding attention. When the outer life can no longer distract from the inner truth, you are forced to turn inward. And that is when the real work begins. The work of listening to your dreams, of confronting your projections, of decoding your symptoms, of asking not what's wrong with me, but what is my psyche trying to show me? Jung approached the human psyche not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be explored. He saw dreams as messages from the unconscious, symptoms as signals from the soul, and neuroses as cries for integration. He did not believe in suppressing these messages. He believed in translating them. And the message again and again is this: you are not whole. You are not living in alignment with your deeper self. You have forgotten something essential, and until you remember it, your soul will remain restless. This remembering is not about going back to some idealized past. It is about recovering what was repressed, ignored, or denied. The child who was silenced, the artist who was shamed, the rage that was swallowed, the fear that was buried. These fragments live in the unconscious, and they must be brought into the light, not judged, not eradicated, but welcomed, integrated, made part of the whole. The ego resists this. It wants control, it wants certainty, it wants to maintain the illusion that everything is fine, that nothing needs to change. But the self is not interested in illusions. It is interested in truth. And the truth is, becoming whole means letting the ego die 1,000 small deaths. It means surrendering the idea that you know who you are and being willing to find out. This process cannot be rushed. It cannot be faked. It unfolds in its own time, often through dreams, synchronicities, inner conflicts, and unexpected insights. And yet there are signs that you are on the path. You begin to feel a deeper sense of purpose, not based on achievement but on authenticity. You begin to value solitude, not as loneliness but as communion with the self. You begin to trust your intuition, not as a whim but as a sacred guide. Most of all, you begin to feel more whole, not perfect, not immune to pain, but whole. You can hold your contradictions without splitting. You can face your fears without running. You can be yourself without apology. And in this wholeness there is power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to be real, to be grounded, to be alive. Jung saw this as the ultimate task of a human life, not to conform, but to individuate, not to escape suffering, but to transform it, not to find meaning in the world's eyes, but to create it from within. He believed that each person's individuation was not just a personal journey, it was a contribution to the collective. Because when one person becomes whole, the world becomes a little more whole too. This is the forgotten secret of self-realization. It is not about transcending your humanity. It is about fully embodying it. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. It is not about fixing yourself. It is about remembering yourself. The path is long, the path is hard, but the path is worth it. Because at the end of it, you don't become someone else. You become who you were always meant to be. In the next part, we will dive deeper into the unconscious mind, the realm where the shadow lives, where the inner child waits, where the hidden potential sleeps. We will explore how dreams, archetypes, and symbols guide us toward wholeness. And we will look at the real obstacles that stand in the way of self-realization, not outside us, but within us. Because to walk the path of individuation is to walk through your own darkness until you find the light that was always there. To understand the path to becoming whole, we must go deeper into the landscape of the unconscious mind. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is not just a storehouse of forgotten memories or primitive instincts. It is an active, living dimension of the psyche. It has its own structure, its own language, and its own intentions. It is not against you, it is part of you. And if you learn how to listen, it will guide you toward the self. But first, you must learn its language. And that language is symbolic. The unconscious speaks in images, metaphors, and archetypes. It speaks through dreams, fantasies, slips of the tongue, and sudden emotional reactions. If you try to interpret it literally, you will miss the message. But if you learn to read the symbols, you will discover a treasure map leading back to yourself. One of the most powerful tools Jung used to access the unconscious was dream analysis. Dreams, he said, are the royal road to the unconscious. They are messages from the deeper self, offering insight, warning, and guidance. But they don't speak in plain language, they speak in mythic imagery. You might dream of a snake, a storm, a lost child, or a dark figure following you. These are not just random images, they are symbols. Each one represents a part of your psyche trying to communicate. The snake might represent transformation, the storm, a coming crisis, the lost child, a forgotten part of yourself, the dark figure, your shadow, the parts of you that have been repressed or denied. If you dismiss these dreams as nonsense, you miss the message. But if you explore them with curiosity and openness, they become sacred texts, personal scripture written by your own soul. This is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and humility. It means admitting that you are not just the good parts of your personality. You are also the parts you fear, the parts you shame, the parts you hide. But when you bring these parts into the light, not to punish them, but to understand them, you begin to integrate them. You make peace with yourself, you become more whole. Shadow work is not about becoming darker, it's about becoming more real. It's about owning your full humanity so that you can access your full divinity. Because wholeness is not found in perfection, it's found in integration. And that includes the parts you'd rather avoid. As you do this work, you begin to discover something profound. Beneath the shadow is not just pain. There is also power. The energy you use to suppress your shadow becomes available for creativity, passion, and purpose. The fears you used to run from become sources of strength. The wounds you used to hide become doors to empathy and connection. This is the alchemy of the soul, turning lead into gold, darkness into light, fragmentation into unity. But this transformation does not happen in isolation. The journey toward wholeness must be lived in the world. Jung warned that spirituality which avoids the world is not true spirituality. The real test of self-realization is how you show up in daily life. Do you treat others with respect? Do you honor your inner voice even when it's inconvenient? Do you live in integrity even when no one is watching? The self is not an escape from the world. It is a way of being in the world with depth, authenticity, and meaning. When you live from the self, you no longer chase validation or run from rejection. You no longer seek to dominate or submit. You live from your center. You speak with your true voice. You create from your true essence. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes real. You may still struggle, you may still suffer, but your suffering becomes meaningful. Your struggles become part of your growth. Your path becomes your own, not borrowed from culture, parents, or society, but forged from within. And this is perhaps the greatest gift of self-realization. The freedom to be who you are, not who you were told to be. The courage to walk your path, not the path of others. The strength to face your darkness, not pretend it doesn't exist. And in doing so, you become a light. Not because you have no shadow, but because you are no longer afraid of it. In the next part, we will explore how to live as an integrated being. What it looks like to walk the path of the self in real life. How your relationships change. How your sense of purpose deepens. And how your presence becomes a healing force in the world. Because self-realization is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new way of living, whole, awake, and aligned with the deeper truth of who you are. To live from the self is to live from the deepest part of your being. It is not about adopting a new identity. It is about shedding all false ones. It is not about becoming special. It is about becoming true. This truth does not shout. It does not demand attention. It does not seek applause. It moves quietly. It is steady. It is grounded, and it changes everything. When you integrate your shadow, listen to your dreams, and follow the inner guide of the self, your life begins to reorganize itself from the inside out. You may notice that your relationships shift. Some grow stronger, rooted in authenticity. Others fall away, no longer aligned with who you are becoming. You stop playing roles, you stop pretending. You begin to show up as your full self, flaws, depth, complexity, and all. This honesty might unsettle others, but it also attracts the ones who see you, not just your mask. And in that kind of connection, there is real intimacy, real love, not performance, not dependency, but a meeting of souls, not just personalities. Your work also begins to change. You no longer chase status or safety. You want meaning, purpose, alignment. You ask, does this reflect who I really am? Does this bring life to my soul? You may find yourself letting go of paths that once seemed important but now feel empty. You may risk failure in order to pursue authenticity. But in doing so, you begin to create a life that is yours. Not perfect, but real. Not impressive, but honest. And this is the essence of a life lived from the self. It is not flashy. It is not about being more. It is about being whole. A person who is whole is not afraid to be vulnerable, not afraid to say, I don't know, not afraid to feel deeply. They are not fragmented into different personas. They are integrated. They can be strong and soft, clear and flexible, passionate and peaceful. They are not torn between who they are and who they think they should be. They are simply themselves. This inner alignment radiates outward. It changes how you walk through the world, how you treat others, how you respond to challenge. When you are in touch with the self, you stop living in reaction. You stop being controlled by fear, anger, or ego. You begin to act from a deeper place. You pause before reacting. You listen before speaking. You respond with compassion, not just habit. This kind of presence is rare, but it is powerful. It heals, it uplifts, it inspires. Carl Jung believed that this inner work was not just for individual healing, it was for the healing of the world. He said, "Mom, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But it is also a responsibility, because a person who is whole becomes a mirror. They show others what is possible. They create space for truth. They stop projecting their pain onto others. They stop participating in the collective illusions. They become a force of consciousness in a world that is often unconscious." This is not about becoming a guru or a savior. It is about being human, fully, consciously, courageously human. It is about carrying your light and your shadow with grace, about living your values, not just speaking them, about embodying wisdom, not just collecting it. The world does not need more perfect people. It needs more whole people. People who have done the inner work, who have faced their darkness, who have returned with the treasure of self-knowledge, and who are willing to live that truth, no matter the cost. Living from the self means giving up the safety of conformity. It means walking away from comfort when it compromises your integrity. It means being misunderstood, rejected, or even ridiculed. But it also means living with freedom, with peace, with purpose. Because you are no longer trapped by fear. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. You are simply being yourself. And that is the most powerful thing you can be. This journey does not end. Self-realization is not a destination. It is a lifelong unfolding, a deepening, a returning. Each challenge you face is a call to integrate more. Each relationship is an opportunity to grow. Each moment of suffering is a doorway to deeper awareness. And each act of love, courage, or truth brings you closer to the self. Jung warned that the path of individuation is narrow. It is difficult, it demands everything, but it also gives everything. Not in the form of success or security, but in the form of soul. And in the end, that is what we are seeking, not just to survive, but to live fully. Not just to know ourselves, but to be ourselves. Not just to exist, but to become whole. So how do you continue this journey? How do you stay connected to the self in a world that constantly pulls you away from it? First, you cultivate solitude. You create space to listen to your inner voice, not the voice of fear or ego, but the quiet voice beneath it. You reflect, you journal, you dream, you ask questions that matter, not what should I do, but what is true for me. Second, you embrace your emotions, not as problems, but as guides. Your anger shows you where your boundaries were crossed. Your sadness shows you where you need to grieve. Your joy shows you what lights you up. Every emotion is a message. When you stop resisting them, you start understanding them. Third, you stay in your body. The self does not just live in your mind, it lives in your breath, your heartbeat, your gut. When you are grounded in your body, you are less likely to be hijacked by fear. You can feel what is real, and you can act from that truth. Fourth, you find people who support your growth. Not people who enable your masks, but people who challenge you to be more honest, more alive, more whole. The path is personal, but it is not solitary. We need each other. We heal in connection. Finally, you live with intention. You don't wait for permission. You don't wait to be ready. You live your truth now, in small ways, in big ways, in every moment you can. And when you fall short, you forgive yourself. You begin again. This is the work. This is the path. This is what it means to become whole. To remember who you really are. To bring the unconscious into the light. To walk the narrow path of truth. And to live not from the ego, but from the self. It is not easy. It is not fast. But it is worth everything. Because in the end, there is no greater gift you can give to the world than a fully awakened, fully alive, fully whole you.